The S&P 500 extended its winning streak to a seventh day Thursday as revved-up shares of Tesla gave it and the Nasdaq a lift. Tesla shares rose more than 3%. The world's most valuable automaker posted record deliveries as well as record revenue for a fifth straight quarter. But IBM's sharp drop on disappointing revenue dragged the Dow down to end just below where it began the day. The S&P 500 gained nearly 1/3%, and the Nasdaq rose 0.6%. But the S&P's seven-day winning streak is giving some market watchers pause. Thomson Reuters Stocks Buzz analyst Terence Gabriel notes the markets fell significantly after a similar streak ended in August 2020.
These streaks, they're good while they last, but they also sort of tend to suggest that the market may be sort of stretched and overheated shorter term.
Shares of SoftBank-owned WeWork jumped over 13% on their debut Thursday. It capped a long-delayed journey to the public markets for the money-losing office-sharing company that was once valued as high as $47 billion. The markets valued it at just over $9 billion Thursday. And HP gained nearly 7%. Analysts hiked their price targets on the printer maker's stock after the company's adjusted profit breezed past estimates. HP also hiked its annual dividend. The bumpy ride isn't over at Southwest Airlines. The massive flight cancellations that bedeviled the carrier earlier this month are expected to dent its top line, and mounting costs could hurt its bottom line. The airline said Thursday its October revenue could take a $75 million hit from those cancellations that it blamed at the time on air traffic issues and bad weather. Those cancellations were also partly due to staff shortages, which forced it to rein in its capacity plans. The carrier had earlier added flights, betting that an easing of health crisis restrictions would boost demand for air travel. Southwest now expects capacity will fall about 6% in the first quarter compared to the same period before the health crisis in 2019. What's more, costs will likely rise, and that's expected to offset the improvement in travel bookings it has seen since late September. It expects expenses to jump by up to 12% in the current quarter as it boosts staffing, doles out incentive pay for vaccinations, and battles inflation. The news wasn't all bad. In the latest quarter, the carrier drastically shrank its loss from a year ago, and it was much smaller than Wall Street expected. But that wasn't enough to please investors. Southwest shares fell in early trading Thursday. They have now shed roughly a fifth of their value over the last 6 months.
Elon Musk has been to visit Tesla's new factory near Berlin a few times already. Only days ago he was hopeful that cars would soon be rolling off the line.
Well, we're aiming to start production in a few months, basically November or December, in terms of, and hopefully deliver our first cars in December.
Now that could be in doubt. On Thursday, Germany's Environment Ministry said an online consultation with local people would have to be redone. That is over concerns the first attempt didn't comply with regulations. The repeated process is open to anyone unhappy with responses from Tesla or officials in round one and will run until November 22nd. After a 2-year battle to get production started, that is unlikely to go down well with Musk. He has repeatedly voiced irritation with German laws and processes.
I do think there's like a basic logic to the notion that if every year that there are more rules and regulation added at the local, state, federal, and EU level, then eventually people will not be able to do anything at all.
When it does finally open, the factory is due to produce 500,000 electric vehicles per year. It makes everything from Dove soap to Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and all its products might soon be going up in price. On Thursday, household goods giant Unilever warned that it sees even higher inflation ahead. The firm says price rises will probably accelerate next year due to surging costs for energy, edible oils and packaging. Transport is also getting steadily more expensive. Earlier this week, arch-rival Nestlé said it had hiked prices to cope with rising costs. It's a similar story at Unilever. Its sales rose faster than expected in the 3 months to the end of September. Though the volume of goods sold actually fell, prices rose more than enough to compensate. But analysts say Unilever may struggle to pass on all the coming rising costs. It makes about 60% of its sales in emerging markets, where inflation pressures are fiercest. For all that, the firm says it's sticking to profit margin targets made earlier in the year, defying analyst fears of a cut. Unilever shares rose around 1% in early trade Thursday.
Facebook's independent oversight board is not happy with the social media giant, saying Facebook was not, quote, fully forthcoming about how it makes content decisions and demanding more transparency. A report issued Thursday said Facebook withheld information from the very oversight body it had created to ensure accountability. The comments follow a Wall Street Journal report last month that said millions of Facebook accounts belonging to celebrities, politicians, and other high-profile users were exempt from some internal checks.
Facebook can change, but is clearly not going to do so on its own.
And it comes in the wake of whistleblower allegations that Facebook has long been aware of harmful content on its platforms, but prioritized profit over users' health and safety. The oversight body on Thursday accused Facebook of failing to be transparent with the company's cross-check system, which the site uses to, quote, review content decisions relating to high-profile users. The board said that when it ruled back in May to uphold the indefinite suspension of former U.S. President Donald Trump after the January 6th riot, Facebook did not mention the cross-check program until asked. The board wrote, quote, this omission is not acceptable. A company spokesperson said the board's work had been, quote, impactful and has asked the body to review the cross-check system. Facebook created the board mainly to address criticism over how it handles problematic content. In its first quarterly report, the board said over 500,000 Facebook and Instagram users submitted appeals between October 2020 and the end of June 2021, of which more than one-third were related to content concerning Facebook's rules on hate speech.